Oh, it is Friday. Bring it in with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach Thorpe. It is Friday afternoon, not Friday morning. We're normally meeting. How are you, Coach?
About the same as I would be if I was at 11 a.m. Yeah, this 4-hour window, I'm the same person. A little bit later, things might be different. A little sketchy.
A little later with a glass of whiskey. Who knows? It might be a whole different conversation.
Yeah, it's Friday actually, so maybe so. I think it's going to be a reposado night tonight, but I'm open for discussion.
Little reposado. Well, I was telling you before the show, it's 100 degrees with humidity up here in New York City. I don't even know. Rosé. I'm trying to even think, what kind of alcoholic beverage would I want tonight? I don't even know. It's so hot. So it might be too hot to even drink.
No, just make sure there's ice in it. Okay. That'd be cool. So we do. I knew it was going to answer. We do. It's the end of summer league and free agency. Yep. Training camp's 30 whatever days away, 33 days away. But we got some stuff to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about. First thing I want to hit on is your excellent piece published today. All of you who are TrueHoop subscribers, you already saw it. Coach boldly predicted the Hawks will win a title. Now, we're not saying it's going to happen this year, but at some point, he believes they have all the necessary pieces. I happen to agree with Coach on that. I love what they have. But what I liked about this piece was you talked about the two different paths they have to win a title, right? One path, of course, being all their young talent they have. We assume they develop and grow and get better, and they kind of work around the margins, and that's good enough to win. Or because they have all this young talent that's under contract, you move some of them, right? And you get a more established player like a Bradley Beal, just to throw a name out there. Yeah. So I love both paths. So what I want to start with there for you, coaches, I mean, there is no what's better than the other. But if you were Travis Schlenk and you were the GM of the Hawks, which path would you choose?
To quote Mel Gibson's character from Braveheart, I'd be saying a lot of hold. Yeah. I would, my general philosophy on stuff like this is we want to give our fans the longest, most impressive window we can of contending for titles. We may never be the favorite. We might be the favorite a couple of different times, but if I can keep finishing top 4, top 5, what it means is we're playing meaningful games from October until May. And if I can get my fan base that, we're always in contention. Some years we'll get luckier, some years we'll get a little unluckier, but we're always right there. The model I've used is Dallas's model with Dirk. Maybe they should have done a little bit more to try to win, to get more than 2 finals. They had 2 or 3 really great years, but that long stretch of wins. Similar to San Antonio happened to get 5 rings. So, but they had more good players. So I like that longer term approach where they're contenders now. It just needs some injuries to happen to other teams. Need to get a little bit lucky. If they can win the East is the better conference. They can win a championship while they're still cooking their team a little bit. That's what I would do. Every 10-year-old in Atlanta would go to college only knowing the Hawks being great. And then they're fans for life and their kids are fans. This is how it works. You don't get to, the 20-year-olds now are not Hawks fans. They're bandwagoners maybe. It's not in their DNA. They didn't hear it in their car all the time. They didn't hear their parents talking about it. It wasn't always on TV in a big game. And so they're bandwagon fans. As soon as they have a bad year, they're off. You do 8 to 9, 10 years of just contending. They're fans forever. That's how you build a big business in terms of your TV contract, Loki, and all of that. So I think they're in a great spot to do just that.
I like that approach as well, because not only does it make sense from building your fan base, it helps your business, right? The business of basketball. Yeah. It is much better to be a 50+ win team every year going to the playoffs and having all that playoff revenue, right? Than it is to, roll the dice and throw it in and you get good, you have a shot for a year or two, but then if it doesn't work, you age out, guys move, you don't have that young talent anymore to build around. Maybe your star like Trey decides, oh man, we went for it, we couldn't get it, I want out now, right? So it's tough, right? It's a tough balance because we know what our good friend Daryl Morey says. If I got a 5% chance of winning the championship, I'm going all in, right? So it's going to be Travis sort of balancing. We got to the conference finals last year and we're really not ready yet, right? Because none of our main guys are in their prime. So it's like, what if we do it again this year and we just miss it with the same core that we have? That may push Travis to be like, all right, we're going to roll the dice then and move Hunter and whomever and get that other big guy to actually go after. And it's tough. It's hard to argue with that as a move.
Well, I like how you put it. So if they go through this year and they can have a better season and lose before the conference finals. I mean, they did win a Game 7 in Philly with a Joel Embiid that was really just an offensive player because of his injury. And Ben Simmons was a no-show, right? And so, but at the very least, in that process, DeAndre Hunter should be getting better. Cam Reddish should be getting better. Their 20th pick, Jalen Johnson, was one of the real stars of Summer League and was a projected top 5 pick a year ago. He looks like he's got a chance to be really good. I even write about Sharif Cooper, the second-round pick from Auburn, that is likely going to be a player. He's got a campaign kind of game. I don't know his game all that well, but he can really pass. He's very quick. He won't help them this year. They have a backup named Delonte Wright who's better, much better. So, develop those young guys.
Yeah.
And then maybe figure out, all right, John Collins is more valuable somewhere else. And that team that sees that is willing to give us X that maybe makes us better. It's a win-win for both teams, as trade should be. You're not trading Trey.
Right.
But, what if they can get Cat? Which I wrote about this.
That'd be nice.
You get Karl-Anthony Towns, which I think if you're Minnesota, the age difference of Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns is just not great. Like Anthony Edwards is years away, in my opinion, from really knowing how to win games. And I don't know that Cat's going to want to stick around for that. So what if you're Minnesota? I don't even remember what it was in the article. If I put the trade of trading Reddish and Hunter.
I think it's you put Reddish and Hunter.
Yeah. So Capella, Hunter, Reddish for a Cat. I mean, the Hawks are still really good for a long time. Cat and Young are more similar aged. Now you got 2 all-stars, 2 of the best offensive players on the planet. And you haven't just completely gutted your team. You've got other guys. So, yeah. And because I think Atlanta is going to be a destination going forward.
Yes.
With those 2. So, you lose Hunter and you lose Reddish, which is bad. You gain Cat, which is very good. But because you're Atlanta, with a team with those 2 all-stars, you're going to get another free agent who isn't not going to come because it's Atlanta. He's not going to come just because it's Atlanta. You got to be all-stars too. But you got him.
Yep.
So now you go get the best 2-way player you can find because Cat and Young aren't really strong defensive players. Cat's fine. It could be better. They're both such good offensive players. So, if that happens in February of this year, beginning of next year, because you just see maybe a cap on the way Reddish and Hunter are developing, knowing that Trey is there, that's fine if you make that decision. But I just long-term thinking is just how I'd always approach it. I don't like Daryl's. I love Daryl. He's a transactional guy.
Yep.
And he figures, a 5% chance will go all in. And if it works, great. I can name my next job. And if I don't, I'll get another job somewhere else. I get that. But I like it better as an owner if we can compete for a championship for a decade.
I'm with you there for sure. And then I think too, what you're looking at is, because you mentioned the article, it's getting the right pieces, right? Because I love getting Cat would be huge, but you need a backcourt mate with Trey who can guard, right? And if you lose DeAndre Hunter, that's your 2-3 next to Trey. You don't have to worry about it. You can stick him on anybody because DeAndre Hunter already as a rookie could guard his ass off and will only get better, right? So you have to be making sure, who am I getting back to be in the backcourt with Trey? That's not going to make it a turn. Not that Trey's terrible, but he's slight. So there's only so much he can do. Right. He's limited physically. So I think that's something that Travis is going to have to look at. And then too, with Reddish and Kevin Huerter, who we're both big fans of, they're essentially the same position, right? And you probably can't keep them both, right? So it's who are we betting on that's going to be the better of the 2, right? And it's Reddish may have the higher upside, but Huerter's been better, he's been healthy. And we saw him in the playoffs. It's a tough one, but good problems to have if you're Atlanta.
Yeah. Did you see the GIFs of Ray Allen and Huerter that I put in?
I did.
Judy made for me. I mean, there's much of the world that, for example, I can look at an article and I'm not going to see things that you'll see. You're smarter than me. You're a better writer. You'll just see things that I won't see. Allow me the courtesy or the privilege of saying there's things I'll see in a shot that you're not going to see.
Absolutely.
I don't know why I see Ray Allen. I didn't mean to. It just pops in there. But I can watch Ray Allen shoot since he was a sophomore in college at Connecticut. And the I was looking for Ray Allen shots that were in a similar style to I could just show jump shots is fine.
Right.
But I got the little pullback by Ray Allen and the pullback from Huerter, and the way they shoot with the elbow a little bit in front of their arm as opposed to just underneath the hand, it's in front. It's kind of a sling. It works for them. I mean, guys, it looks so similar. And he had 27 in game 7.
Yeah.
He cooked Seth Curry.
Yeah. In his first playoff appearance. Yeah.
He cooked him. That's a gunslinger. Like, you got Trae Young on your team and you're the one cooking a guy. That's some ganas. That's some desire, right?
No, he is.
I like that.
I love Huerter. I think, Devin, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Red Mamba was like his nickname. I think like someone put that out there. I could have sworn that happened during the playoffs. Somebody was saying the Red Mamba, and I was like, "This is hilarious.
I'm so upset.
This is hilarious.
That's definitely making the article. Come on, Jarod.
Red Velvet. There we go. Red Velvet.
But Red Mamba is so much better.
I know. I was like, "Red Mamba be better." It's I love Huerter. Huerter's I just like his game a lot, and now that you're talking about it, I see it, right? Like, I mean, Ray Allen was such an interesting player too, Coach, because he evolved so much throughout his career.
Yeah, he did.
Coming out of college from Connecticut, going to Milwaukee, I mean, yeah, he could shoot, but he was a crush you over, get to the rim, like dunk on you, like he was a monster. Yeah. Matter of fact, I mean, if you go to the conference finals, that Milwaukee team with him and Robinson, and they were good. Just
and he was better at this age than Huerter. I'm only comparing the shots. I want you to do me a favor. Do the world a favor, Jarod. Write a Post-it note and put Red Mamba next to your PC or Apple, whatever you use. And the first time Huerter goes off for 30 or more, please take that out. That is the greatest thing. So good.
Red Mamba, why not? Come on, let's make that happen. True community, we're gonna make Red Mamba happen. Let's do it. I love it. Huerter's our guy. So, we're talking about what's been happening in the league. We'll stay in the Eastern Conference. Right before we got on, a trade was announced. The Cleveland Cavaliers have acquired Lauri Markkanen, and there's a whole lot of players moving and doing different things. Judy, if you want to pull up that Shams tweet so we can get the particulars out. Yeah, but Markkanen is for sure going to Cleveland. He was signed there as a restricted free agent. The Bulls get Derek Jones Jr. They get Portland's first rounder. Protected first round, and Denver's 2023 second round protected. And the Trailblazers get Larry Nance Jr. And Coach, you just said something interesting when we're talking about a potential trade for Atlanta. You want all sides should win. I'm not 100% certain that Cleveland's winning. I mean, I like Markkanen, but I don't know that Chicago was the right place for him. I don't know he's going to get a whole lot of playing time in Cleveland. That front court's looking really crowded all of a sudden. I do like Derek Jones, Larry Nance going to Portland though. I think that's really nice for them. Gives them another athletic wing. And then Chicago, I'm meh.
But I want to talk about Portland first, and let's go to Cleveland because I think they drafted Evan Mobley. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm not sure we'd be talking about Cleveland at all. Just to be fair. So Portland has, we all think that Dame's got to leave if he's going to win a title. Yeah. But we try to be as objective and pragmatic as we possibly can. There is no magic wand that can help turn the Blazers into a real contender.
Right.
Okay. But I calling balls and strikes here. They have added some defensive-minded players that I think can help move the needle in the right direction. Larry Nance is a plus defender, maybe even a plus defender. One of the top steals guys for his position, defends multiple positions, kind of gets it. Like he knows that's his identity. And so they're going to be better. The team they're putting on the court this November, this late October, November, is going to be better than the team that ended this season last year. So I don't think it'll be enough to make Dame think, all right, this is my spot for the remainder. When yesterday, before this trade happened, when he was asked about it, he's like, I'm committed to Portland for the time being, basically, which is fine. He's allowed to say that. So yeah, I think Neil O'Shea did a good job in just incrementally, which is really all they can do.
Yep.
The Markkanen thing, the biggest concern I have is Evan Mobley. Jarrett Allen's your 5, am I right?
Yep.
Markkanen's better than Mobley. Markkanen's good. He's a good player.
He can shoot it. He's
and he's not 19 like Mobley is. So I have no problem with bringing Mobley off the bench as a rookie. None, zero. I have no problem with them playing in the G League 25 games.
Well, I agree
just to learn how to be the man and not just if they want that. I just am thinking, and if you're grabbing Markkanen as a piece, in other words, we're going to develop him. We know Mobley's our future, but if we can get this guy to be a plus player, well, then we can just trade him for someone else as Mobley grows into that role, and we'll bring in a different position on the way back. That's fine. I don't know that Cleveland has I don't know if they're the team to do that, right? But we'll find out.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I don't know that Cleveland, look, I don't know Kobe Altman, so I don't, but I just don't know that not only the development side is there, for them to do, as you said, the right thing, which is, all right, Evan's going to go on the G League, play 30 games down there. Like, who knows? They might even do something crazy like start Mobley sometime. Who knows what they're going to do? I couldn't tell you. But it's an interesting situation to have. And I do think their most important thing, to your point, Coach, is the development of their young guys. Because it's not just Mobley, right? Yes, Mobley's there, but you've got other young guys you drafted in years past. Garland, Sexton, Okoro, like those guys are all young, and they got to get better. And I imagine with the Allen signing, their thought process is, we think we have a shot at making a run at that play-in. Maybe you do. Maybe you do.
They could trade Sexton. They could package some things. If they get Markkanen playing well enough, they might just felt like, because they have to pay him. So they've got to. I don't know what the deal is. I haven't seen that part of the deal. If he's a placeholder, then it's smart. Grab the asset at good value and then potentially move him. Nathan brought up a point in our chat about the G League. And so I want to address it real quickly here. We obviously had a G League coach on Coach Speak on Monday, and Ryan Pannone. I don't know that anyone in the G League is better than Ryan at player development and play development, which means studying the world and figuring out what to run. I'm not saying he's the best coach in that league, because there's more required to be a great coach than those two things. But there are plenty of guys that are like him. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of G League coaches that are really committed to their craft. I would argue the majority of them do, not all of them, for sure. So the NBA should be using that as a tool. Cleveland being an example. I live in Clearwater, Tampa Bay area. Our baseball team, with no budget, is the third best team in baseball. Again, 70, we're closing at 80 wins now, with lots of time to play. We're likely to win the East. Not definitely the Yankees could come back, but they're 4.5 back, I think. And we use our minor league system nonstop. We're constantly, I think the Ray, I say we, I mean, I watch a couple innings most nights when the NBA season's done. I might catch 2 innings, which I enjoy doing. I think the Rays have more injured players, especially pitchers, than anyone in the league. And yet they just keep bringing more guys in because they develop them. Our farm system is second to none. And has been for so long. Basketball's got to catch up to that. They've got to recognize the value of this. And so, to Nathan's point, it shouldn't be considered anything other than a place to develop our guys so that they can become the best they can be when we get them. And the smart teams will utilize it and
100%. And I think that, I think now we're at a stage, correct me if I'm wrong, that every NBA franchise has a G League affiliate now. I think we're at that point now where all 30 teams have their own.
Maybe only Denver doesn't.
Okay, it might be one. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
So my thought process there is, if you are the head coach and you have a system or whatever in your philosophy at San Antonio, your G League affiliate should be running the same shit you run at the big ball club, right? So that the terminology and all that is all the same, right? So that makes your life easier when you bring these guys up in and out. Like, and your point, like that's a market inefficiency that most teams don't utilize. We know the Raptors do it well with Masai, obviously. But a team like Cleveland, these teams that are perennially terrible and have to draft high every year in the lottery, how are you not crushing the G League? Like that's your point to really have a competitive advantage, particularly if you're in a market like Cleveland where you're not getting any free agents. Like no one's like, this ain't LeBron Cleveland. This is just regular old run of the mill Cleveland. No one's saying, yes, sign me up. Right. So you've got to be able to use your G League effectively. And I just, not enough teams do it.
Yeah, no, they don't. I think eventually, I might be an old man when it happens, but I think eventually they'll get it. Not every baseball team knows how to do it. They all
Right.
have farm system. It's always the same. The smarter teams, good teams tend to play good, great teams tend to play great, bad teams tend to play bad. Everyone lives in all the different spectrums. It's the same thing with franchises. Smart franchises tend to do smart things. Dumb franchises tend to do dumb things. And it's evident throughout their process, not just on the court for NBA games.
100%. Sticking with all the, sort of silly season stuff. So some big dominoes have not moved yet, but we anticipate they will be moving sometime soon. Of course, talking about Damian Lillard in Portland, which of course we have talked ad nauseum about on TrueHoop and had a fun little back and forth on the internet about that. Of course, we still stand by what we said, because have you heard what Damian said recently? Oh, for the time being, I'm in Portland. Again, that is contrary to everything Damian Lillard has said prior to this season. He's always been, I'm 100%, I'm all in. All his language says, not the case. There's Dame, there's the Ben Simmons situation, which you and Henry have clearly pointed out that not only people in Philly done with him, he's done with them. And then, of course, the Bradley Beal situation, which that one, and, Tommy Shepard, of course, GM of the Wizards, friend of Coach Thorpe's, Bradley's been saying forever he doesn't want to go anywhere, but I'm like, I feel like every time you keep saying that, I believe you less and less. Right. So those are the three dominoes that we know need to move. And those are the ones that can affect the title chase. Right. Yes. Even Ben Simmons, because while we know he can't shoot, he's excellent at just about everything else on a basketball court. So what do you think, Coach, in terms of who is more likely to move first?
Well, before I answer that, I want to pick up on what you just said. I think this is something Tommy has never told me and never would. I think Beal is playing ball. I think Tommy, if you know him, and Henry knows him really well too, he is an excellent communicator. And it's my strong suspicion that he has said to Bradley Beal, we have got to be one. If I'm ever going to trade you, when it is you want to get traded, which I hope never happens, because our players, Rui Hachimura suddenly averages 20 a game, and all of a sudden, and Denny Avdia is good, and we're a contender. But if we aren't, I need you to be with us every step of the way so I can get the biggest bang for my buck that I can from you and pull the deal that you want. But the moment you start straying off the reservation, so to speak, right, when you're talking outside the program, so to speak, you hurt my chances of doing my job.
Right.
And that makes it harder for me to do my job for you, because you don't pay me. My boss, my owner, pays me. To be honest. So I think Bradley, and from what I know of his days at University of Florida with just 1 year, world-class person. So I don't think it was very hard to get Bradley Beal to play ball.
No.
And so I think that's what's happening. And I think, and because Henry's not on the show, it's easier for me, I think, to talk about this. I think what happened with Damian is Damian really was trying to do the same thing, but it's not our fault to report what sources say.
Right. Yeah.
And I know sources were saying it. And what's really funny is I just reread the article, Jarod, the other day, after I saw what Damian said on Instagram Tuesday night. Like, he's basically committed to Portland, like, for the time being. What was the words?
Well, what does that mean?
But I mean, it was like this one. I don't want to paraphrase it. It was some kind of quote of "for the time being" or "for the foreseeable future" or whatever. Just what even foreseeable future? That would have been more optimistic.
Right. Yeah.
It was like,
I think the words were "for now."
For now, yeah. So
so
I went back and read Henry's article, and all he wrote was that sources reported he was going to request a trade. But nowhere did he write he was requesting a trade to be done immediately. Like that was it was, and when he and I talked about it, we never thought, oh, it's going to be now or he's never going to play for them again. It was never anything like that. Anthony Davis requested a trade, and look how long he was still in New Orleans.
Yep.
So everything is happening exactly. Nothing is different than what we thought might happen, and it just so happened that people talked about Damian he knows. I mean, we can sugarcoat all we want. They're not competing for a champion this year.
No.
I like this deal they did. Derek Jones is out of the rotation, and maybe Larry Nance will be in the rotation. How do we know? Chauncey Billups is the coach now. They changed coaches. Probably, I spoke to one of the Blazers' former coaches the other day, a longtime friend of mine. 9 years is a long time for one staff to be there. moving on. That's fine. That doesn't mean that Damian's thinking, hey,
yeah,
he got the West. No,
definitely not.
No, not for 1 second.
Definitely not.
Right. So I don't know when that will happen. But the other thing that's interesting now, to get to your question, is I think Daryl is probably working really hard with Rich Paul and saying, if your client doesn't come to our training camp, or the first day will be media day, we're fucked. I need him there. Because if he doesn't come, I've lost all my leverage to make myself whole. And now you're putting me in a really unfair position of, I only have to work for you. Again, you don't pay my bills and you won't be part of our future. We need to work on this collectively, which means you come to media day, you say all the right things like Bradley Beal's been saying, whether it's heartfelt or not, it's irrelevant. You play your ass off. In fact, I have a recommendation. Not that I think Ben Simmons or Daryl's watching this show. And I'm not going to text Daryl this, but if I was coaching the Sixers or managing them, I would say to Ben, how much money do we have to pay you for you to take 10 threes in the first half of our first preseason? And I don't care if you miss all 10, because that's the way to turn around the fan base.
Yeah.
They'll applaud every air ball you get. Go after layups. I don't care if you get 0 for 20 from the line. Just go. Let loose. It's preseason. Jack it up every chance you get, and let's just change the narrative. And then I'll trade you as soon as I possibly can. Right? But we're not going to lose that. If you don't want to be here, we'll trade you. But we can't, when there's enough other Daryl Morey's, which means there's sharks. There's sharks in the water in the NBA. Some guys aren't sharks. There are many sharks. We've got to get the blood out of the water. We got to get the chum out of the water here. They'll pick me dry if Ben, you don't come to training camp, and I've got no leverage at all. I go into the season not having you on my team. I can't have that.
So this is interesting, Coach. You bring up something here. So this is beyond the X's and O's part. So now you gotta put on your coach hat, your Ted Lasso hat. How is that locker room going to be going and that training camp when Ben already feels some kind of way because Doc was basically like, look, this is what it is. Like, didn't really come out and support them after the playoff loss. Those dudes in that locker room, particularly Joel Embiid, are at a point where they're like, look, man, we're done with this guy. Like, how do you navigate that locker room when you know it ain't going to be friendly wherever they go do training camp?
So Ted Lasso, I'm not going to do any spoilers, but I don't think this is something he's said. I've watched the show, but there's so much in the show you can miss stuff. But it should be, it's really implied that there's no one player bigger than the program. And if you watch the show, you'll understand what I mean about a particular player that they have that's a high-level talent. We're a business. The NBA is a business of individual players, individual CEOs. At the end of the day, you guys got to do your job, regardless of who else is here. Our job as management and coaches is to put the best product on the floor and try to win as many games as possible, blah, blah, blah. So for right now, guys, Ben's here, and we're going to try to win every game we can. We're going to develop our players and try to win games in reverse order. Win games, develop players. Make them more valuable for the next contract, or help them live up to the contract that we're paying them currently. And when we make a trade, if we make a trade, nothing's going to change. Like, it's not hard to appeal to professionals if you go about it that way. And that's the way it has to be. If you don't address it, which I think, and I know from experience, there are some GMs who feel like if I talk about it, it just creates more conflict. I don't agree with that. Because I think that vacuum allows them to sniff back and forth to each other. So I think they should be very upfront about, guys, we may or may not trade Ben. That's something we'll discuss with Ben privately. If he wants to tell you he can, we're not going to tell you anything until we get down to that point where we think something's going to happen. Let's play our asses off and let's see what happens. And if they can get Ben to come back and take 10 threes in the first half of the first game, maybe Ben will realize, I want to be here. I don't think that's likely, but at least you give more opportunities for something good to happen, which is what you want. You want to increase the probability of good things happening, and that would be one of them. So at the end of the day, they have Joel Embiid. Mm-hmm. So Daryl is really smart. The only way Daryl can't do some kind of deal to help his team win would be if Ben doesn't show to camp and he loses all leverage totally. And I think he'll just sit on him if that's the case, which would be bad for everybody. Chad Ford put the other day in his, maybe today in his article, what I wrote about last week, which was, I think I may have just tweeted it, I deal with De'Aaron Fox. is interesting to me. Yeah, you could trade Simmons to get Fox and maybe Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes. You can increase your the Sixers with Fox are really, really good. Not as good as they are with Simmons, but Fox is
clearly not
ascending. He's still got a chance to be an all-star for sure. He's a young guy. And so I think that is possible. I think Daryl is setting his sights super high and will slowly, be negotiated down if he can't get what he wants. But why not try for everything right now?
I've said it before. It's just tough to me. I know why they have to, and it likely will happen, but breaking up a pair of 26 and younger all NBA dudes is like, what?
They were the number one duo in the NBA plus minus in the league. Yeah. Number one.
Yeah. I'm like, that's insane. Like who does that? That is crazy talk. But is what it is, man. We'll see what happens. And I think because of that makes me very nervous about, prognostication is what it is, but like seeing long-term for Philly this year, where I think they're going to be, right? Because it's so uncertain. Like they were the 1 seed last year, but that was with that team. I have no idea what they could be. And again,
I've got them. I did. I'll be writing about it in a couple of weeks, but I did my look at every game and schedule thing. I think I had them in 4th. This is before this last trade, so I may adjust a couple of things here and there. But it's all pretty bunched up. The Nets and the Bucks are the best 2 teams in the East.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's a nice little, obviously the Heat, and you got the Hawks.
The Hawks.
Those are there. And then I think the Sixers are right there too, if they can solve this. And I think they can. And then just real quickly on Beal, my guess is that's exactly what's going to happen this year. Is Beal is going to do everything the opposite of what Ben Simmons has been doing this summer, and just toe the line and act like he's happy as heck and survey the landscape. Maybe Dallas. I don't think Dallas has the players to trade.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
I would love it, but I don't think they have enough coming back for Washington.
No.
But whatever, he'll survey, and I think at some point I would guess he would even say to Tommy, maybe they probably should have a weekly lunch, breakfast, dinner, whatever. What are you thinking? And if there's any team that Brad's like, hey, you know what? I'd be nice there. And then they got these guys for you. Then I think they'll do a deal, because I don't think their young talent is too young to convert into anything that's going to be all-star level next to Beal. Yeah. So unless something really changes this year, I still think their window is a little bit too long for Beal.
And that's the key you hit on right there, Coach, is the Wizards guys, sans Beal, are all young and on a much different timeline, right? So who else can I look at from a team standpoint that has guys around the same age as Rui and all these, and Denny and all these young guys that we can say, okay, we can line you all. Thomas Bryant, who's coming back off injury, that we can line up together and say, all right, this is a crew we can build a long-term plan with, And I think for Bradley Beal, a team that has some young talent, might consider doing that, but that remains to be seen. Let's shift gears a little bit, because there's something I want to talk about, and it's going to be a sort of a larger conversation and probably take up maybe not the rest of the time, but a good portion of it.
Okay.
So, Coach, you put in the documents different scores in which the NBA grading out on social culture and activism issues.
Yeah.
So I wanted you to talk about sort of what you saw from that piece, and then I want to kind of follow up with a few things.
It's a pretty big article on how the NBA is grading out by, I think it's a group at UCF, actually, where my daughter goes to school. They assess these kinds of things on how they're handling the COVID health policies and athlete activism, and hiring women, as well as considering the racial profiles when you're hiring. I don't know how. I don't know this gentleman. He's a pretty well-known guy that does this. The lead guy for UCF. He seems to be very high on what the NBA did. There's a big comparison, Jarod, to how other leagues are doing. The NBA is doing great when it comes to that. I'm just not expert enough to evaluate. I value what you have to say on this, but I don't want the NBA compared to the NFL. I tell you that.
Right.
It's easy to look good compared to that league, and not to say that league won't get better. We're all rooting for them. I don't watch the league anymore, but I don't want the NBA to ever fall into the habit of saying, well, we're better than those guys.
Right.
Because that's just setting too low of a bar. And we've gone too long before this reformation, in the sense that we're going through now. And I like that they're talking about the activism part. That's a big thing. We need our players to be activists, I believe. We need them to be outspoken. And they're going to disagree. Well, welcome to the real world. We have disagreements all the time. I think there's progress being made. I'll like it better when there's a woman coach in the second one, and a female general manager in the second one, the third one. And when it starts looking like every YMCA you've ever gone to, at least that I have anyway, then I can start feeling like, okay, I think we've really done a good job of doing what we should be doing as a league. Give me your thoughts.
So, I'm with you on this because oftentimes, and look, we all know I love the NBA and for what we all do on this show, passionate about it. I think it's great. It often, as I've said before, it gets credit for doing things because it's not the NFL, right? And my position is always like, look, that can't be your bar and metric. Oh, we're not them. It's like, yeah, well, they're atrocious, right? So like, even if you do a little bit better than that, you're still probably pretty bad, right? That's not great. And I think overall, look, and they're actually, Judy's showing sort of like a little, you see year over year, there's actually been a slight decrease in their grading, right? Like in terms of racial hiring was down a bit, gender hiring down a little bit, right? And their overall score is down slightly, right? So I think the challenge you have with sports in general is, one, those jobs are coveted, every single one of them. Head coach, lead assistant, whatever. There's only 30 of them that exist. 30. That's it. So by definition, it's already going to be hard to crack in no matter who you are, because there's only 30 of those things available for each of these. Head video coordinator, whatever it is. There's only one of them on every team. Now, the issue in the area where we need to be better is whom and where are the pools we're getting these people from, right? Every time we hire a Black coach, why has it got to be someone who formerly played in the NBA? You mean to tell me there are no Black Nick Nurses out there? There are no Black Taylor Jenkins from Memphis? Like, come on, like, what? There's none of those people? Speaking of, Caleb, my guy, is out here, right? He's a head coach, right? So, I mean, why do we only look at the same pool of people? And that's because the people in charge, right? And it's Henry's talked about it. You guys can read studies on it. There's this correlation effect with people that look like you, right? That just kind of, it's just a thing that we all do, right? And when the owners and GMs are white males, well, guess what? More than likely, that's who they're going to be picking up on, right? That's just the nature of Caleb. I'm not Nick Nurse, but I'm Black. Good one, Caleb. Right? So how are we diversifying the pool and the talent and not just falling back on, because one of the things that people in those hiring positions often say is when they don't hire someone Black or woman or some other minority is, I don't know, this person just had that it factor. And the it is just code for they look like me. And it's just easier to connect and relate. Well, that's not a good way to decide who's going to be good at a job, right? Like, I mean, if I was starting if I was running a basketball operation and I wanted to hire someone to evaluate players, scout, and develop, Coach Thorpe don't look anything like me, but he'd be the first person I call because I know he's really good at it. You see, like, it doesn't matter that like someone doesn't look like you or whatever. Like, you have to be able to look beyond that. And again, where is that pool coming from? How big, how diverse, how deep is it? And right now it's just not, right? It's the same 5-10 names that get recycled. Oh, this owner knows so-and-so, call my guy from here. And it's like, all right, well, so of course nobody like Caleb's going to get called because who the hell in the NBA knows Caleb, right? And sorry, Caleb, you're just our avatar for right now because you're in here, right? Like, they don't know him. So how's he going to get in there? And it's just a challenge. So that's always been my position on these things.
I mean, I've been saying this on the show that it's as much as I'm happy for them to hire Black men that play the NBA, I just think there's so many more Black men that have never played in the NBA, but have just been coaching their whole life, or when I say whole life, some of them in their mid-30s, so they're young men. But why aren't we considering them too? It bothers me. It's a sensitive subject with me for a little bit of a funny reason, a different reason. When you grow up, well, in my case, a little white Jewish dude from Clearwater, Seminole, Florida, and you see every advertisement, it's this really handsome guy, and every movie star and TV star, and you look like just plain old me. I'm always thinking, well, why the fuck do you have to look like that to get on TV? Don't women fall in love with men less attractive than that? Like, we have personalities. We're kind, decent, nice people. Give us a chance. That's how my mind was working my whole life. And I feel it's very much the case now. Owners don't know any better. They don't know any better. Well, because you played, and I'm not criticizing Chauncey Billups, he was a brilliant player. But I'm sorry, there are other men and women, regardless of color, that can coach better than Chauncey. Maybe they just weren't as good as a basketball player, but they can coach as good. And Chauncey might be great, but others can be better. And so, and that is where we have really failed. We have really failed. I'm glad Willie Green's the head coach. I'm glad Ime Udoka. Those guys were not stars.
Nope.
That's progress. Nate McMillan wasn't a star, as well known. So I'm all for that. Don't just hire the Jason Kidd Hall of Fame guy. But when we start hiring as our top assistant, the black guy or woman, a minority, let's just say, that have worked their way up as coaches. And you watch them and you see, how do they connect with people? How do players respond to them? I have a very easy way of evaluating coaches. I look to see how their teams look at them. Because I will tell you this, when I'm coaching a team, now it's more as a guest because I don't really coach a team anymore. Nobody fucking blinks. And I tell them, don't blink, because every single word I give you is gold. It's the gospel when it comes to basketball. You don't want to miss a word. And so I kind of a shtick that I do. The players like it just fine. But I'll watch them with their own coaches. And those coaches that have their attention, it's not just because they're good coaches. They've earned their respect as men or as women. I've mentored a young woman here. I got her first boys coaching job in the whole Tampa Bay area. There's only been one woman who's coaching varsity boys. I called the principal. Her name is Stephanie Crawford, former Marine, former Armed Forces rather, amazing coach. And she's Tyshawn Taylor. Remember Tyshawn Taylor from Kansas?
Yeah.
He was his godmother.
Okay.
So I had Tyshawn here when he was in ninth grade because he played at my school in ninth grade. So if you got it, you got it. You don't have to be a former NBA guy to do it, but you have to know what you're looking for. And that's where I think agents, and I'm not criticizing them, they're doing their job, but they're pounding ignorant owners, not ignorant in life, ignorant in basketball.
Yep.
And they get taken advantage of all the time, in my opinion. So your point about building the pool is everything. We need to flood the coaching staffs with minorities who all be represented by agents, every one of them. And that's going to literally, by definition, increase the likelihood that one of them will be tapped by an owner. Because he'll have an agent, he'll have been coaching for years, he checks all those boxes, and it won't matter he didn't play in the NBA. We need to get more and more and more. And just to finish that thought, we're on the same page regarding the NFL. The NBA, to their credit, I think we've how many of all the coaching openings, only Rick Carlisle. Am I right? Is he the only non-minority get hired as head coach?
Yes, I believe so. The opening, because Donovan just moved to he went to Chicago, so that wasn't new.
That was a year ago. Yeah. So of the new 7, I think there was 7, 8 openings, only one, I think. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm not suggesting it should only be former black players either. Obviously, we need to have like I said, it should look like your local YMCA. Some years it'll be more, some years it'll be less, but the process has to be right. Just like a good shot, you might miss 10 threes in a row. But if your process is right, your form is right, shot selection is good, you're going to shoot a good percentage ready to get at what you're doing. We need to get that process going. But I also think we need to shed more light on women.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've done a good job shedding a light on black men. Now we need to talk more and more and more about the fact that there are women, in my opinion, only stands to gain. Just like I want a woman president. We've tried it the other way. It can't be worse just because they're women. For sure, it can't be worse. Maybe it can be better.
Probably would be better.
Yeah, absolutely. If you hire the right woman, for sure. Why not? There's players. I mean, how many companies? Not enough, but there's plenty of companies being run by female CEOs.
Well, that's the thing. Billions. Yeah, that's the thing that always gets me about sports, and it's sort of backward, macho barbarian culture. It's like every other profession in the world, dudes report to women. So I don't why should sport be any different? Not a big deal. We've been doing it our whole lives. It's not that big of a deal. So anyway, we shall see. I do want to stay on this topic a little bit. So Ethan Strauss, friend of the show, has a new Substack newsletter out. And he published a couple interesting posts this week. And it's more largely around sort of sport and sort of what's happening in society as we see it right now. We know last summer was a summer of protests in the NBA, and we've been seeing a shift in sports coverage and the way in which media talk about sports. And what is seemingly, for lack of a better term, more politicized coverage. And sports has always been, at least for a certain segment of the population, this quote unquote escape from the real world, right? And I've always said that sport is a microcosm of the world that it inhabits. It's not an escape; it's just a representation of what's actually happening. And it's those things are now being brought to light, and we're now seeing it on Front Street. And Ethan talked about how the NBA of the major leagues, right, compared to football and baseball, has seen a decline in viewership, right? And his point being, like, what is the reason for that decline, right? And of course, the NBA will tell you one thing, and Ethan consistently drawing back and pointing and shedding the light on, people and a certain segment of the NBA fan base tuning in and not wanting to see things like Black Lives Matter on the court, see things like constant player protests, all these sort of not strange things, but things that in many fans' minds don't fit or work within sports, right? And I know that that's not, Ethan doesn't feel that way, like, as a human, but just again, he's asking questions like, well, why is that? Why do we think this happens? And I thought in his piece, particularly about the NBA, the idea that so much of the NBA's real estate, the actual geography of it, are in Midwestern white states, right? Where, like, that is the majority, that's the one sport they have. So how is that average fan relating to, right, a Black millionaire who is talking about, whether it be social justice, whether it be police killings, whatever the situation may be, what is that disconnect? And I just thought it was a fascinating read. And I wonder, because we're living through an interesting time in history, Coach, right? Like, these major changes are happening to us right now. So it's kind of hard to get out of our brains and take the 30,000-foot view, because it's happening. But everything is so different about how we talk about sports, how we consume it, how we deliver news, how we consume that, the athletes, how they connect with us, how they don't. And it's way different than it was in the mid 80s when I started watching sports, right? Like, it's just not the same. And I wonder, will a league like the NBA, because football will always be popular, just the nature of how it's played, the gambling aspect of it, the one time a week, all that, it just is what it is. Will the NBA ever be able to regain its foothold and become, see growth again, or at least see flatlining of viewership? Because TV numbers are real, right? And they have been declining for a number of years now.
I'm not an expert on the TV numbers part, because I don't know if they account for streaming.
They don't fully, but it's also like, I mean, how many people are legally streaming Utah and Sacramento on Tuesday night?
Right. Well, for sure. Yeah, it's not a lot. It's not a lot. They might be just watching the YouTube highlights, whatever.
Right.
Which has some value, but not quite the same. You're not selling the same ads. And so I think this is the whole game right here. I think that, I guess the best way to put it would be this. When you talk about the Midwest the way you do, I think we can agree that there is a healthy selection of the average fan that's there, not the serious fan that's going to every game and watching every game on TV, no matter what, who really love the players, regardless of their color. They just love people. They love people. And if they're on their team, they love you even more. I have an aunt, my wife's aunt. She loves the Blazers more than Henry does, I'll tell you that. And she can't imagine any of them doing anything wrong, ever. Doesn't care what they look like. She loves them all. From Dame to Nurk to CJ, whatever, she loves them all. She lived in Portland a long time. I think that there is a knee-jerk reaction. I think that I don't want to go so far as to say that they're racist, but you and I know the truth. Okay, I've lived in the South my whole life. I've been in Florida. I talked to Henry about this a lot. My Black friends my age are like my parents in the 40s and 50s as Jewish people in the South. They had Christmas trees, Jarod. They had to change their last name. Thorpe is not my dad's last name when he was born. It was something different. His dad changed it because he couldn't be a successful dentist with a name that sounded as German and Jewish as it sounded in the 40s or late 30s. And so they had it, I guess we call it assimilate. And it's horrifying that people had to do that. Yep. Well, Black people have been doing it since day one. Yeah. Right? The uppity, you know what's next, right? That's how white America too often saw it and still sees it, I think, in a lot of these communities. And so as long as we know what they say, shut up. As long as you shut up and play, then they're fine to root for you. But as soon as you show that you're a human being that's thoughtful, and not everyone's super thoughtful, just like any other race, we have our people that speak before they really think, fine. They can't handle that. And my attitude is fuck them. My attitude is there's enough. We have so many people living in this country. There's enough genuine, decent people that will follow this sport if we build a great league. If we, as you have been eloquently arguing since day one, play less games, make the games more meaningful, because I used to fight that. Now I don't fight that. I embrace it. If we do all these other things, maybe whether it's not, I don't know, shorten the game, Elam endings on Fridays, only on Fridays. Fridays are Elam, everyone plays, they're all Elam endings. Whatever.
That's awesome.
Be innovative with stuff like that. Then those that don't want their any of their players, white or black, to speak up, well, then just don't watch the sport. We're going to thrive anyway. What we can't do is try to placate them like we've always been doing, right? But my friends, my black friends who are my age, have looked, they don't open their mouths in public. They have learned. They're very cautious, and they'll continue to rise right up the chart. They know what they're doing. They're playing the game the right way. And they tell me the truth. I know how they really feel, but there's not enough people that think the right way. And so they've been forced to do that. And this generation, the generation younger than you, are like, fuck that. And I'm so thankful. We'll never solve it if we all just kind of stay in our lane and make sure we don't piss off the racists and the bigots and those kinds of things. And so I want Adam Silver to say, we're not worried about you anymore, Indiana. And guess what? We can pull our team anytime we want. That's what I'm really looking for, is if we don't get the ratings because you don't like the product enough because of how our players handle themselves now, we'll find plenty of other cities that want us. That's what I would love to see. And
Seattle would love their team back.
Just exactly, of course. There's others. Just leave. You don't like it, you're not going to have a team anymore. And it's sad because there'll be plenty of really decent people that are going to be hurt by it. Sorry, move. That's how I say
it. I just think that it's, it's sport is such an interesting sort of fulcrum and rallying point, right? Because it's such a tribal thing and people feel so passionately about it. And it's such an interesting dynamic. And it's something, obviously, we've been talking about it. We can talk about for literally hours upon hours. But Caleb, the Kane Pennsylvania Pacers, actually, please. I mean, look, you guys, listen, you got your team in Pennsylvania, Caleb. That's it. You got who you got, man. That's it. No more teams for you guys out there. But no, I think it's just something that we should constantly talk about, and seeing the humanity in people, right? It's like, these guys perform this skill that they're quite good at, that pays them a lot of money, sure. But they're humans first, right? That's the most important thing. And they have interests in things that matter to them beyond what they do on the court. And I think it's important that, they have an opportunity and a platform to do what's necessary. But I encourage you guys to read Ethan's pieces, share your thoughts online with me, what have you. I just think it's super interesting. Just sort of, again, we're at a flashpoint in history. Like, we're all not going to be around when the history books get written about this time, because we'll be long gone. But it's be so fascinated to see how this period in time is being talked about, generation or two from now. Okay, moving on. Let us discuss. I lost my place on the map there. So, vaccine mandate. The league has implemented something new. So any team personnel that comes into interaction with the players, right? So that's going to be trainers, obviously medical staff, that's the media folks, PR, all that. All those people must be vaccinated. I think that is a interesting move by the league, but I think, Coach, they should go one step further. The players should all have to be vaccinated too, not just those people. And if you're not, we'll know who is it, because they're going to get put on Front Street. It's like, oh, and again, I don't know. I'm just going to make up a name. No, I'm not going to do that, because then it's going to go crazy. Player X, why aren't you vaccinated? Hey, like we're seeing in the NFL, right? Sort of strict mandates where it's like, if you don't do X, you then end up in COVID safety protocol. Well, look at Cam Newton in New England may end up losing his starting quarterback job because he doesn't want to get the vaccine, right? Because this is now the second time he's got to go into health and safety protocol. So he's going to be away from the team 5-6 games. So guess what? Those are 6 days of practice and reps. You're not taking backup dude. He's getting those reps. Listen, hey, it's your job, man. Like, if you don't care about it enough to do that, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, your thoughts.
I mean, I agree. I think that I'm sensitive to people that don't get the vaccine for the right reason. There's just very few of them, right? But like I was just saying, in the big picture, the little picture is the same way. There's a segment of society that just won't get it. The same crazy people who think that Biden stole the election, more or less. The Venn diagram is pretty obvious. They're also the ones bitching about the vaccine. I think that the NBA should put together a medical COVID intervention unit, and they should travel between now and the first game of the preseason. So you got some time here, over a month. Visit with every team. They're all going to be there after Labor Day. Almost everyone shows up after Labor Day, give or take. There'll be some exceptions. That's fine. So maybe wait till the second week and visit with every single person hesitant and take 4 hours. It might take one to get through it for 4 hours. After 4 hours, and almost like an arbitration, if they convince you there's a reason why they can't take it, then so be it. But I don't think you'll have many. I think that you can't just dictate to millionaires. You can't dictate millionaires in the regular world. Why should you dictate them here without some intellectual side of things to be considered? These are thoughtful young men who won't take it. They're just thinking wrong. Mostly. Again, if you can defend yourself over a period of time that here's why I won't get it, then we should allow for that. Just like you would, growing up, I went to public schools, you had to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
But I was told that there are exceptions, but you had to have a doctor explain it back in the day anyway. I don't know what it's like now. You can't just say, well, I don't trust it. Well, no, we need more than that. Here's why. There's 1 billion people who have taken this vaccine, more than 1 billion. We have a lot of data. So let's have the conversation with these individual players deserve the right to have a one-on-one meeting in a sense, not a small group, one at a time.
Yep.
I don't know how many per team will have it. It'll be just 1 or 2 or 3 per team. It won't be a big number. And just go through it and educate them.
Yeah.
Let their families come, those that have families.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll end up getting 95+% vaccinated.
So I think you're right on that. I think the players who, and we have some ideas about, particularly some of the star players who aren't. I don't think it's for most of them. I don't think it's a matter of a health reason or whatever. I think it's just a lack of knowledge and not really knowing what is going on and what's there. And I think if you're able to sort of get through to them in that one-on-one scenario, like you said, right, like not in a large group setting, because those things don't work. Literally one-on-one, I think that's your best course of action, and the NBA can do it. Got access to all the smartest immunologists and disease specialists. It's not difficult.
Oh, if they advertise, we're looking to hire someone for $1,000 a day.
Yeah,
a surgeon, a doctor, a team, whatever, who like the NBA. There's going to be a long line of volunteers. We'll pay you for the privilege of talking to these athletes about why we think the vaccine. And heck, run blood tests, do whatever you have to do to make them feel like. I understand why they want to protect their bodies, and those that don't realize how incredibly dangerous COVID is, because they aren't reading the paper every day like many of us do. And I don't care that they aren't. Educate them. Like this is, yesterday alone, 2 different people that are close with people that we're close with in their 30s are dying. Like they don't know if they're going to make it. They're on ventilators, unvaccinated. Like it's a real thing, and they don't always necessarily see that. The league needs to make them see it, and let's try to get to 95%.
Absolutely. And, it's coming soon, as Coach said, but after Labor Day, everyone's going to be back in their home markets for the most part. Training camp is literally right around the corner. Good God. Hey, shouts to the Milwaukee Bucks and Coach Mike Budenholzer. So two months ago, Coach, we were like, oh, this dude can be looking for a job coming in, right? Because they were down 2-0. We're like, it's a wrap for Bud and the Bucks. And now look, 3 more years. It's amazing what winning a championship will do for you, right? Like,
I don't know what people. I don't really use Instagram very good. I post some pictures here and there for my kids when I'm gone, but I don't really know how to search it, whatever. I don't really get it. But what I end up watching a couple times a day for 5 minutes or so are poker hands. I don't even play poker, and probably will never sit in a room full of other men playing cards ever again for obvious reasons. But there's just so many teams, so many guys that win hands on the river. Like you got to hang in there. Bud just hung in and waited for that last ace to come. And the last ace is named Giannis, and it worked out really good. He did a great job. I thought he did a phenomenal job actually in the postseason. Mm-hmm. We've never seen a team I watched them today in Game 5 against the Nets, and they weren't nearly as good as they were even as they went on. They passed the ball better and better, cut more and more. He did a hell of a job. And I think they have a great chance to win it again. It's going to be tough. The Nets are really good. But I mean, Milwaukee got better. I think they're going to be right there at the end. I think they figured something out. Let's see if they stay with it.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that wraps it up for today's show. Make sure you enjoy the weekend. Those of you in the New York area, try to stay cool. Good God, it's hot out here. Coach, how warm is it in Florida right now?
I think today is only in the 80s, just humid.
80s. Unbelievable. Triple digits over here. Have a good weekend, everybody. We will see you on Monday.